She smiled on the outside. Inside, she was counting the lies. Catherine O'Brien had it all. Big house, loving husband, friends who envied her. But appearances were deceiving, very deceiving. Her husband, Richard, seemed charming, polished, successful, the kind of man everyone wanted in their life. But Catherine had learned to read between the lines, and the lines were screaming danger. She noticed the little things first: secret phone calls, whispered conversations in the hall, files disappearing from the office, money vanishing from the accounts. At first, she brushed it off. It's nothing, she told herself. But her gut doesn't lie. One night, she saw him on the phone. His tone wasn't just secretive. It was calculating, cold, like a predator planning a strike. Her heart pounded. She asked herself a question she never thought she'd have to ask. Does he want to ruin me? Catherine's life had been all about trust, but trust had been a trap, and traps are deadly when the one you love sets them. She started digging. Small clues, little patterns, it all added up to a terrifying picture. Richard wasn't just careless with money. He was planning something bigger, something cruel. Catherine's blood ran cold as she read the documents he thought she'd never find. Wills, bank accounts, legal papers, every detail meticulously plotted. He was planning to leave her penniless, to erase her from his life like she never existed. And just like that, the woman who had smiled so brightly, the woman everyone thought was soft and gentle, she changed. A fire sparked inside her, a fire that would not die until justice, her justice, was served. Catherine O'Brien knew one thing for certain. She would not be a victim. Not this time. Not ever. The stage was set. The players were ready. The game had begun. And what would follow would shock everyone who thought they knew her. If you want to see how Catherine turned the tables and unleashed her dark plan, don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe. The story has just begun. He smiled, but smiles can be lies, deadly lies. Richard O'Brien was careful, too careful. Every step calculated, every word rehearsed. He thought Catherine would never see it coming. She discovered the first clue on a rainy evening, a folder, hidden behind the books in his study. Curiosity sparked. Fear followed. Inside were documents she wasn't meant to see. Bank accounts in her name drained, investment plans manipulated, contracts that would strip her of everything if he vanished tomorrow. Richard had crafted the perfect betrayal. Every loophole exploited, every legal loophole twisted. She felt her hands shake. Her heart raced. The man she had loved, the man she had trusted, was planning to ruin her, to leave her penniless, to erase her existence. Catherine confronted him, casually at first. "Richard, what's all this?" He smiled, the calm, confident smile she once adored. Now it made her skin crawl. He denied it, pretended innocence, smooth words, but she had seen the truth, the files, the plans, the cold, calculated betrayal. That night, she couldn't sleep. Images of her life without him flashed in her mind. No money, no home, no future. She had worked her whole life, built her dreams, only for him to destroy them. Anger bubbled inside her. Betrayal burned deep. But fear didn't win. Not this time. She began watching him, every move, every habit, every secret. Richard thought he was untouchable, but Catherine was learning. and learning fast. She started planning, quietly, patiently, carefully. A fire of revenge ignited. It was cold, calculated, deadly. Richard would soon learn. No one betrays Catherine O'Brien, not without consequences. If you want to see how Catherine begins her dark, shocking plan against Richard, make sure to share, comment, and subscribe. The story is only getting darker. Some secrets refuse to stay hidden, especially the deadly ones. Catherine couldn't stop thinking about Richard. Every smile, every word, every touch now poisoned with doubt. He was hiding something. Something big. Something that could ruin her completely. She began checking his calls, emails, financial records. The more she looked, the darker it got. There were transfers she didn't authorize, contracts she hadn't signed, evidence of lies stacked on lies. One evening she followed him, quietly, shadowing him down empty streets. He met a man in a dark alley, slipped him a thick envelope. Richard didn't notice Catherine lurking, but she saw everything. The envelope contained her worst nightmare: plans, legal loopholes, proof that he was setting her up to fail, to take everything she had worked for. She wanted to scream, to confront him, but she held back. Catherine knew anger could ruin her plan. She needed patience and precision. She started mapping out her options. Every move he made became predictable. Every habit, every secret, a piece of her growing strategy. Richard thought he was the predator, but she was learning to hunt. Even her friends noticed the change. Catherine, once cheerful, now cold, calculating, silent. The fire inside her couldn't be hidden anymore. Richard, unaware, continued his plotting. Every day, every transaction, every whisper of deceit. He underestimated her. A fatal mistake. That night, she pored over the evidence. A plan began to take shape. Not just revenge, not just justice. Something darker. Something he would never see coming. Catherine's mind was sharp, focused. The woman everyone thought was gentle and kind was gone. In her place, a storm was rising. A storm that would consume the man who tried to destroy her. And yet she waited, watched, prepared, because the right moment would come. And when it did, Richard would regret every lie. She smiled at him, but he didn't know the storm was already inside her. Catherine had learned patience. She waited, watched. Every move Richard made was a thread she could pull. He walked around like he owned the world, confident, careless, thinking she was still the soft, loving wife he could manipulate. But she wasn't. She began planting small traps, questions she didn't really ask, hints dropped like breadcrumbs. Observing his reactions, every twitch, every glance, every lie he tried to cover. Richard didn't suspect a thing. He continued his secret meetings, his quiet plotting, sending envelopes, making calls, believing Catherine was still oblivious. But she wasn't. Catherine started taking notes, documenting everything. Every betrayal, every lie, every cold plan. This was her insurance, her weapon, her future leverage. At night, she lay awake, thinking, planning, imagining his shock, the look on his face when he realized he wasn't the predator anymore. Even her demeanor changed. Friends noticed the new fire in her eyes, the cold smile that hid a mind working faster than anyone could guess. Catherine made her first real move, a subtle hint at dinner, a question so casual, but it rattled him. He paused, hesitated, the first crack in his confident mask. Richard brushed it off, but Catherine saw it, a spark of fear, a taste of the storm to come. She knew timing was everything. Strike too soon, and he would escape. Wait too long, and he might succeed in destroying her. Catherine's plan grew sharper with every passing day, every secret meeting he had, every move he made, all feeding into her ultimate revenge. The calm before the storm. That's what it felt like. Richard still thought he had control, still thought he could manipulate her, still thought he was untouchable. He was wrong. So very wrong. If you want to see how Catherine's calculated revenge begins, make sure to share, comment, and subscribe. The next will push the tension to its breaking point. Revenge doesn't wait, it whispers. And Catherine was listening. She spent weeks watching Richard, studying his habits, tracking every meeting, every call, every late-night transaction. Nothing escaped her eyes. The betrayal ran deep. He wasn't just planning to leave her penniless. He was calculating every step, thinking she would never fight back. Catherine knew she had to be smarter, faster, deadlier. She started small, hints, subtle traps, questions that seemed innocent, but each one unnerved him, each one made him second guess. A man who once walked confidently now hesitated. Her mind worked like a machine, mapping every scenario, every escape route he might take, every weakness he might show. She knew she needed the perfect opportunity, the one moment where he wouldn't suspect a thing, the moment when everything would turn in her favor. And then the idea came. A plan so shocking, so dark, it made her own pulse race. Richard would never see it coming. He thought he had power. He thought he controlled everything. Catherine smiled to herself. For the first time in weeks, she felt in control. The fire inside her had grown. The rage at his betrayal had sharpened into a weapon. She began preparing, slowly, quietly, methodically. Every detail planned, every step rehearsed in her mind, nothing left to chance. Richard continued his plotting, unaware that the predator had become the prey. Catherine's calm exterior hid the storm that was coming. Her friends and family noticed the change, but they couldn't see the dark genius behind it. Catherine was silent, patient, waiting. The moment of confrontation was approaching, and when it arrived, Richard would realize he had underestimated her. He had betrayed the wrong woman. She whispered to herself in the dark, "He will pay." If you want to witness how Catherine executes her shocking plan, don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe. The darkness is about to reach its peak. The hunter becomes the hunted, and Catherine was ready. Weeks of planning, counting every step, every detail, everything had led to this moment. Richard walked around, confident, oblivious, thinking Catherine was still the same quiet wife, the one he could manipulate. But she had changed. Inside, a storm was brewing. Cold, calculated, unforgiving. Catherine began small, subtle manipulations, little lies to test his reactions. Every glance, every hesitation, she noted it all. Richard grew uneasy. He didn't know why, but Catherine did. She was setting the pieces in motion. One night, She confronted him with a casual question. "Did you ever think about what would happen if everything went wrong?" He laughed it off, but she saw the flicker of doubt, the first crack in his armor. She started isolating him, making sure he couldn't rely on anyone else. Friends, family, allies, all subtly pushed away, every connection severed without suspicion. The fire in her eyes grew brighter. Each day she felt more in control. Richard's confidence was fading. Every lie he told, every secret he hid, made him more vulnerable. Catherine prepared the next step. Something bigger. Something irreversible. A move that would shift the balance completely. She imagined his shock, his fear, the realization that the woman he tried to destroy was now the one controlling the game. Every plan, every strategy, every sleepless night of preparation was coming together. And when the moment arrived, Richard would be powerless. Catherine had become more than a betrayed wife. She had become a force, silent, deadly, precise. The storm was ready to strike, and Richard had no idea what was coming. If you want to see how Catherine's plan takes a dark and shocking turn, make sure to share, comment, and subscribe. The suspense is about to explode. Even the strongest lie eventually cracks, and Richard's was starting to show. Catherine's plan was no longer just a whisper in her mind. It was alive, breathing, every day closer to execution. Richard began noticing little things, glances, hints, a question that seemed harmless, but the weight behind it unsettled him. He couldn't place it. He thought he was clever, always 3 steps ahead, but Catherine was moving faster, quieter, deadlier. She monitored his every move, knew when he left the house, knew when he returned, knew who he called and what he said. His confidence began to falter. Every decision weighed heavier, every smile forced, every laugh hollow. Catherine let him unravel slowly. No rush, no mistakes. The longer he doubted himself, the easier the next steps would be. One night, she confronted him indirectly, casually mentioned his generosity in handling their finances. He bristled, defended himself, tried to charm his way out, but the charm was gone. The cracks were showing. Richard started feeling trapped, a gnawing suspicion that he couldn't shake. Catherine's calmness terrified him. Her silence screamed louder than words. And Catherine? She watched, smiled faintly. Every flicker of fear fed the fire inside her. Every hesitation gave her strength. She began tightening the noose. Every ally he once trusted now distant. Every move he made carefully observed. Every secret inching him closer to his reckoning. Richard's arrogance had blinded him. He thought he had power. He thought he controlled the game. But the truth was obvious to Catherine. He was slipping, falling into her hands. She whispered to herself, barely audible in the dark, "Soon, very soon, it will all be over." The tension between them was thick, electric, impossible to ignore. One wrong step, and everything would change forever. If you want to see how the tension finally breaks and Catherine takes the ultimate step, make sure to share, comment, and subscribe. The next will shock you. No one saw it coming. Not him. Not anyone. The night had arrived. Catherine's plan was complete. Every detail perfected. Every risk calculated. Richard walked in, unsuspecting, confident, arrogant, thinking he still held the power. But the house felt different, tense, heavy with silent menace. Catherine stood in the shadows, calm, cold, unforgiving. She confronted him, not with words, with presence. Every move deliberate, every glance sharp as a blade. Richard laughed nervously, tried to charm her, to downplay her awareness, but the laugh died in his throat. Fear flickered in his eyes. Catherine moved closer, step by step, methodically, the air thick with anticipation. Then, the trap was sprung. Richard realized too late. The documents, the evidence, the manipulation. He panicked, tried to escape, but Catherine was ready. Every exit blocked, every plan of his dismantled. She whispered, almost gently, "You thought you could leave me with nothing, but I'm not afraid." Richard's arrogance crumbled. Panic overtook him. Every lie he had relied on was worthless. He had underestimated her completely. And then, the ultimate act. Catherine handed him over to the pigs, a horrifying, shocking move, a final, undeniable proof of her power. The screams, the chaos, the realization that betrayal had consequences. Catherine watched, silent, not with regret, not with hesitation, but with the cold satisfaction of justice delivered. The storm had struck. The predator became the prey. Richard had learned too late. You never betray Catherine O'Brien. Catherine's life would never be the same, but she was free, strong, untouchable. If you want to see the shocking aftermath of Catherine's dark revenge, make sure to share, comment, and subscribe. The story isn't over. Silence can be louder than screams, and the house was deafening. Catherine stood in the quiet. The storm had passed. The predator was gone, and for the first time in months, she felt free. The reality sank in slowly. Richard's betrayal, his arrogance, his fate, all behind her now. She walked through the house. Every corner whispered memories, memories of laughter, of trust, of the life she thought she had, all shattered. Friends began to notice the change. Catherine was no longer the same woman. She was sharper, calmer, unshakable. Some whispered about Richard's disappearance. Some doubted. Some suspected. But Catherine never spoke, never defended herself. The silence was louder than any words. She focused on rebuilding, her life, her future, her control. The neighbors watched, the family whispered. Everyone wondered how she had survived the betrayal, how she had turned the tables. No one could touch her. No one could stop her. Even she surprised herself. The fire inside her had not faded. It had sharpened, forged into a weapon, a lesson to anyone who ever thought to betray her. Catherine knew one truth. Trust is fragile, betrayal is deadly, and justice, even if delivered in the darkest way, is sweeter than revenge. The house, once full of tension, now echoed differently. Catherine moved with purpose, every step measured, every thought precise. Richard was gone, his secrets exposed, his arrogance crushed. Catherine remained, silent, powerful, unyielding. The storm had ended, but the legend of her resolve had only begun. Everyone who had underestimated her would remember and fear her. If you want to see the shocking final resolution and how Catherine's story closes, make sure to share, comment, and subscribe. The last will reveal everything. Some stories and quietly. Others echo forever. Catherine O'Brien stood alone. The storm had passed. The man who'd betrayed her was gone. The house, once a battlefield, now felt eerily calm. Word spread slowly. Whispers among neighbors, rumors in the family. People wondered what had really happened to Richard. No one dared ask Catherine directly. Her silence was a shield, a warning. She moved carefully, every action measured, every word deliberate. She had survived. She had conquered. She had reclaimed her life. Inside, Catherine felt a strange mix: relief, triumph, a chilling satisfaction. Justice, in its darkest form, had been served. Friends returned cautiously. Some admired her strength, others feared it. Everyone respected it. Catherine had become untouchable, a force that could not be ignored. The house was quiet, yet alive. Memories of betrayal lingered, but Catherine's resolve overshadowed them all. She had transformed, from the woman who trusted too easily to the woman who would never be deceived again. Richard's secrets were gone with him, but the lesson remained. Betray someone who underestimates you, and they may disappear from your life forever. Catherine knew she had crossed a line others could not understand. But she also knew it had been necessary for survival, for justice, for her future. The story of Catherine O'Brien would be told in whispers, in fear, in awe, in hushed tones behind closed doors, a reminder that betrayal has consequences, and that some women, when pushed to the edge, will do the unthinkable. Catherine looked out the window. The night was calm, stars shining. A new life awaited her, one she would shape on her own terms. No more lies, no more deceit, only power. And though the world would never fully know the truth, Catherine did, and that was enough. If you were shocked by Catherine's story, don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe. Her story is over, but the legend will haunt everyone who underestimated her.